Hey, what is up, everybody? It is another Friday night, and that means the Tex-Trek crew has assembled to kick off the hashtag TQIF lineup. We're going to
That's what I'm
start the
talking
evening
about.
off with some Star Trek Discovery talk, and then after that, be sure to check out Starfleet Boys channel for the Starfleet Boy After Dark stream. But in the meantime, we got this new episode of Disco to talk about, so we're just going to wait for some people to start watching and then dive right in.
Do we all need our own catchphrase now? Is that the new way we do Star Trek?
Obviously. You know what mine is going to be? I just thought of it right now. Giddy up.
I like that.
Mine
is make it show.
What is yours, Starfleet?
Make it show.
Make it show. I like it. I thought you were going to have to say make it rain.
I like that too.
That'd be weird.
Well, we have some people watching already, some people in the audience. Alexandra says that she's trying very hard not to fall asleep, so we'll try to be extra entertaining and keep you awake. But yeah, let's go ahead and do this thing. I'm fathering.
Yeah.
This is Dave.
This is Brian. Sorry. Yeah,
This is Starfleet Boy.
This is Brian.
And this is Tex-Trek.
I would have been so bad at this.
Engage.
Welcome back aboard the Starship Texas for the 127th installment of the Tex-Trek podcast, the home of Star Trek fandom from deep in the heart of Texas, where we talk all about Star Trek all the time. And tonight we are here to discuss Star Trek Discovery Season 3, Episode 9, Terra Firma Part 1. A story by Bowie Kilm and Erika Lippoldt, with a teleplay written by Alan McElroy and directed by Omar Madha. So just to start things off, I'm going to give a quick recap. I just summarized the whole episode very briefly by reading the official synopsis for it, and then I'll kind of expand upon that with spoilers. But in this episode, the official synopsis reads, the USS Discovery crew journeys to a mysterious planet in hopes of finding a cure for Georgiou's deteriorating condition. Stamets and Adira make a stunning breakthrough with the newly acquired burn data. And basically how that plays out is Georgiou goes through a spooky door that transports her back in time to her days in the mirror universe right before her fall from grace as the emperor of the Terran Empire, and she's able to relive some of those events and also reevaluate her relationship with the Prime Universe Burnham, as well as the Mirror Universe Burnham, who was essentially her daughter, who betrays her. And it kind of sheds a new light on things for her, and we're left with a cliffhanger of wondering how is she going to survive the Terran Empire now that she's shown emotion and love for Burnham and basically exposed her weakness in a society where that is a death penalty that will get you literally stabbed in the back. So we're each just going to go ahead and give our opening statement, just kind of express our general broad feelings and thoughts on this episode. And then we'll...
I see in the comments that Pastel Pirate notes that there's somebody with some feedback going on their mic. If somebody else wants to kick it off that's not me, I'm going to put myself on mute and just see if that changes anything up.
I will say I hear some popping
Yeah.
from Fathery.
Was it from Fathery?
I'm not hearing popping from anyone else, but though Starfleet Boy hasn't said much.
I muted myself, so I'm going to mute myself again just to see if we can figure it out.
Yeah.
It was happening on my channel too, so it might be me. I might be the culprit. I'm going to mute myself.
All right, Brian, it's just you and me now. We're running this show. They have to be quiet. I will say it does seem like I'm not hearing it, at least from myself. I don't know.
See, Boat Trek has a comment. But yeah, I don't hear. I mean, yeah, the only thing I heard was some popping.
Yeah, I think it's coming from me. Dave, go ahead and give your opening statement, and we'll just go around clockwise.
Yeah, sure. So I'm going to kick us off on a downer. Say that this is another frustrating episode for me. I think I was not prepared for a mirror universe detour, and I did not. Although I liked their mirror universe, once I kind of started rolling with it, I had a decent enough time, but it was not the direction I would have chosen given the short number of episodes we get in a season. It felt like a little bit too much of a detour. I know it's gonna probably, it's key for Georgia, but I wanted 32nd century adventure and mystery solving and the burn and the Emerald Chain and all of that stuff, and not mirror universe. So maybe it's a case of my expectations were just not right for it. I also kind of was frustrated with some of the, I guess I'm going to say Discovery being extra Discovery. I thought that sort of it felt a little like a video game plot point. The whole thing, the cure that the Sphere computer hybrid pointed them to on that planet. It was just like, go to that place without any knowledge of what to expect or what the cure was. Just that seemed like bizarrely like the ultimate version of not being technobabble, sort of Battlestar Galactica mysticism to me. That said, along the path, I always like watching the characters. They clearly are living it up in the mirror universe. And if you watch the Ready Room, you saw that they all had the actors that are the bridge crew were having like the best of times with that. And so that part's infectious. But God, this was an episode I kind of struggled to enjoy. What about the rest of y'all? I don't know who we want to hit up next, Fathery.
Well,
is my mic still popping? Do you have problems hearing me now?
It was
there's popping going on. Maybe just as a I tried turning off the automatic adjust mic volume in the settings, and maybe that might.
I'm hearing some popping on Starfleet Boy now.
Oh, you are? Oh, maybe we're.
Yeah, I am too.
All right, I'll be back, guys.
With StreamYards.
I'll actually be right back.
Okay. Do we think you think it's StreamYard?
Okay. Yeah. Well, how do I sound right now?
It seemed
I think
okay.
I'm hearing the popping.
Give me the opening, the boldly go model.
One at a time, Dave. Are you still hearing it?
Yes.
Okay.
Jude Beacom in the
Brian,
comments says
it
it's fairly
sounds
noticeable.
better to me, but I would need to hear you talk, like say boldly go or space the final frontier, yada yada.
Space the final frontier. These are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise.
There's definitely still some popping, though it might be a skosh better. I don't know.
Okay. Well, apologies that we're having some technical issues. It sounds like there's something going on in StreamYards, but
You think it might be because the mirror universe has been drifting away from our prime universe?
Probably, or it could be like interference from our mirror universe counterparts. They've been known to.
Oh man, is it time for another?
Brian, you go ahead and give your opening statement. Keep the show must go on.
All right. Well, let me first comment on Dave's. I thought in hindsight, especially now that you pointed it out so clearly, that, why doesn't the sphere data explain things better? If part of the point of this experience for Giorgio is to go on a psychological journey rather than merely a physical experience, then telling her what the point is might actually ruin the test and invalid or not
I don't
test.
think it could have
ruin the experience.
You could have told Burnham, maybe.
Yeah, but they sphere data doesn't understand. We don't know quite how the sphere data wraps its head around all these people. So
I'm going to have some more thoughts on that for later, but I don't want to interrupt you, so I'll save for when we get to it more specifically.
Okay. Anyway, that's just a suggestion. A lot of that depends on what they do in part 2, of course, whether or not that suggestion makes any sense. I think this might be my favorite Mirror Universe episode, which to some degree is a somewhat low bar to clear, as I'm generally not a huge fan of the concept. But I thought, in general, a lot of times they're just like, oh, look, here's our heroes, and then everyone else is super Nazi evil. And I was like, what am I supposed to learn from this? What is the challenge on a psychological level that's going on? It always just seems so black and white to me. And then they did the Enterprise episode where it's all set in the Mirror Universe. And I'm like, okay, so everyone's just evil all the time. And again, there just didn't seem to be a lot of interesting complexity or contrast to it. They all seem like cartoons. This one here takes that cartoony nature and uses it to juxtapose against somebody that we associate with the Mirror Universe, somebody we've come to view as kind of evil, and puts her up against the Mirror Universe, and therefore shows a lot of change and development and growth and differences between who she was before and who she is now and stuff. And the starkness of the Mirror Universe doesn't see, black and white is boring, but black and gray is a little more interesting there. So I thought this was one of the best uses of the concept that I've seen in the show. Maybe it wasn't as much fun as some of the Mirror Universe's episodes, but I did think they actually did something interesting with the ideological contrast here. And also Saru got some wonderfully cool scenes. So I quite like this one. I don't know. I will also say that a lot of my love of it could change radically depending on what happens in part 2. So.
This is the spot I wanted to be in the beginning, so this worked out perfectly. How do I sound?
At the moment, okay.
Right. So far so good. I believe, and to clarify for our listening audience, Starfleet Boy wants to be in this spot visually on the screen for our viewing audience, because when we post up a comment, the comment blots out their face, and it's funny.
It is very funny. I heard some of what you guys were saying, so I'm so sorry. I know we had some technical difficulties, but the gist of my opinion, I kind of want to wait till episode 2, because they could totally ruin it, as Paul Sutherland said on Twitter. But so far so good. I'm really intrigued. I liked it. I was totally not expecting us to go to the Mirror Universe, even though Terra Firma was right there, in the title and everything. And
yeah, I didn't expect it either. I'm a dum-dum.
Yeah, I was totally taken aback by it. So that was a surprise. And I'm very intrigued by Carl, which I like to spell with a Q. And that character. And no, it was very interesting. Oh, and I was also pleasantly pleased that the Discovery wasn't, that another version of the Discovery wasn't the at the center of this distress signal. So it subverted all my expectations in a really good way. So I'm very excited about it.
All right, Father E, let's see what we got.
All right, how do I sound now?
At least initially, I didn't hear anything. I just dive on in. As you say, the show must go on.
Okay, well, for me, I fucking loved this episode. This is easily my favorite of season 3, one of my favorite episodes of Discovery. I am so impressed with how they consistently depict the Mirror Universe so excellently in Star Trek Discovery. The highlight of the first season for me was that 4-part arc that took place in the Mirror Universe. And I didn't know how much I needed a return to that. But it's some of the best stuff Discovery has ever done, in my opinion. The amount of care and effort that they put into that stuff, the direction, the acting, the performances are so great. And I love getting to see these actors do these bigger performances, and you can tell they're really enjoying it. But they really lean into a lot of that classic pulpy nature of the Mirror Universe dating back to the original series. And also, Michelle Yeoh got to do really cool stuff here. They have written this character so well in season 3. I've really enjoyed what they've been doing with her the last few episodes, and to me, this is so much more interesting than like the mystery of the burn and like the boring Emerald Chain villains like Osyraa. So I really plugged into this. And what was that?
Oh, I just said I'm clearly the complete opposite of you for the sake of this episode, but pray carry on.
Well, yeah. So the thing that is in the back of my head, though, Dave, I've heard you say this before. How when you're enjoying a story, sometimes the ending can make you nervous because you really like it and you really want it to end well, so you keep liking it. And right. I am a little nervous going into part 2 because I don't want them to drop the ball with this, but. I'll say this, like I've always been a little skeptical on the Section 31 show starring Michelle Yeoh, but like now I'm ready for it. Like this episode was based on a story by the showrunners of that show by Bowie Kim and Erika Lippoldt. So I'm ready to see the show that they're doing. I green light that and start shooting, and let's get that on CBS All Access because I am gonna eagerly anticipate it now.
I will echo to some, now that I think about it, this is, I think, the best Giorgio episode I have seen so far in the series. As far as doing something interesting with the character.
To some degree, the character is super fun to watch, but doesn't always have a lot of nuance to her. She is a little bit one speed sometimes, and this episode gave her some stuff to chew on.
It was really clever to put her back in her natural setting to illustrate these changes that she's been going through, because we don't see them in the Prime universe because she's just being a total, emperor, dictator, awful person to everyone. But once back now in her environment, and you see how extreme everyone else is compared to how she's softened, I thought was a lovely counterpoint and a way to show her growth. And I bought it hook, line, and sinker because up until now I was kind of uncomfortable with the character. I was like, we have this mass murderer just free to be a crew member and not in a, she's not in a brig somewhere, and she's definitely not the Captain Philippa Giorgio that I loved from the first episode, who I was like, why did you kill her in episode 2? That was such a great character. I was kind of mad at Discovery for doing that. So I liked seeing that a lot, and I'm very intrigued. And just like Fathery, I'm pretty curious about a Section 31 show now. Now I'm where are they going to set it? What is it going to be? How is it going to happen? I'm very curious.
I still want it to be 32nd century.
Yeah, me too. That would be ideal.
Well, I don't think that was ever the plan. It was always going to be a 23rd century show.
Bring Ash Tyler to the future.
Yeah, I just had a thought. What if his heart is so stolen by Michael that he freezes himself in a cryotube for 900 years? So
let Discovery have free range in this time period. And,
I'm not saying I like that idea, but I could see that idea. It actually is something that would be doable.
I mean,
Tyler,
the galaxy's a big place. Disco could have free range while Section 31 is doing whatever their new mandate might be to be.
I don't want them to have a new mandate because I don't want them to exist in the far future.
By the way, Starfleet Boy, you were talking about Georgiou's growth. I'm not sure if I'm sold on the fact that I don't know if I've seen her. I don't feel like I've seen her evolving over the last season.
I think a lot of it was just in this episode, and that's let's talk about that. Let's go ahead.
But that's just it. She's hiding her growth in the Prime timeline, and here she can't hide it. So I feel like that's what it was.
Okay, all right, but Father, you want to roll us through some? We'll dive right in.
Sorry,
and I think a lot of it just comes from facing death is when you really that's when you really show your true colors. Yeah, we're going to go and kind of break down the episode beat by beat and give it a really deep but fun analysis. So we're just going to start off by talking about the scenes we get before the opening credits. And that's the episode kicks off with a conversation between Dr. Kolber and Kovich discussing Giorgio's condition that they've established. That she's having these weird PTSD flashbacks. She's her molecules are distorting. It looks really weird. Kovich is able to explain exactly what's going on, and he informs the audience as well as Dr. Kolber that Giorgio's molecules are too displaced. It's not only that she traveled 900 years into the future, but she also came from a parallel universe. And so because of that, it's trying to like pull her back to where she belongs, and it's going to kill her painfully. This has happened before in the temporal Cold War. This happened to a guy from the year 2379 in the Kelvin timeline. And so that she is in grave danger. And Dr. Colbert turns to the ship's computer to ask it, is there any possible way? Is there any alternative to this? And that's where they get the response. Well, if you go to Danis 5, there's a 5% chance of successfully saving Giorgio's life. So back on the ship, she's having a hard time coping with her molecules basically kind of phasing out of existence or like falling apart or whatever. She's being an asshole to Tilly, just like taking it out on everyone who's trying to help her. Captain Saru has a meeting in his ready room where they discuss this possible plan of going to Danis 5, and everyone seems to be for it except for Saru. He's hesitant because he thinks Discovery might be needed for dealing with the Emerald Chain. However, Admiral Vance says, like, no, you need to save this member of your crew. It's important. And he kind of gives Saru a little like one-on-one talk, a little like command advice. Meanwhile, Giorgio is trying to blow off some steam in the workout room. And while in there, Burnham comes to let her know about like this possible mission. Giorgio makes it very clear that she's not trying to like extend her life. She just wants to meet it head on with courage and die some type of glorious death. She wants to fight Burnham, but Burnham won't fight her back. She says how like, oh, well, my Michael would have fought me. She would have killed me. And it would have been an honor for both of us. So there's like a lot of tension there. Burnham says like, you know what? You're being the coward. If you were really so brave and really so great, you would try to fight this. And Giorgio is just not having it with Burnham. So we also get like this little bracelet to let us know if she's in danger of dying. It's going to change colors, I guess. As long as it's green, she's okay. But if it turns, I would assume red, then her biosigns are not looking too good. So what do y'all think about like these opening scenes that we got before the credits?
Can I just mention a technical thing? This is when her face distorts, when her molecules are having their problems, and her face distorts. I don't know if I said this before, but to me it looks like she's turning into Keenzer from the Kelvin universe.
That's a really weird.
She's a weird little facey, ridgy things.
Well, maybe that's
and now that this guy, they mentioned a Kelvin time traveler to use their example. That's my long shot theory.
Keenzer has done too much multi-universe travel. He is played by an actor who's been in Doctor Who and Star Wars. So
funny. I was surprised to see that Kelvin reference. That's kind of. I don't know that it does anything other than kind of bind the timelines. Do we anything to make of it, y'all?
Well, we discover that whatever Spock did in the Kelvinverse, it set Starfleet fashion back by 14 years.
Or did it? Because I'm assuming that this is not the uniform he wore in his Kelvin timeline, but this is something that when he was being an operative in the temporal wars, he wore.
So in the future,
it could go either way.
You're saying that in the future, Starfleet goes back to this uniform?
I think that he was
maybe he had assignment in like the 2350s or 60s.
Yeah,
right.
I guess my impression was he got sick pretty soon after he got to the future, but
yeah. They said it's going to happen to Giorgio like faster and more intense than it happened to this guy.
Yeah, they also have the wrong com badge, but it is an alternate timeline. So they don't.
Well, this is the com badge for TNG.
Is it? I thought it had the square back, like the
in the previews. Badge. That was in one of the previews, but they corrected it. In the trailer,
it had the wrong one, but in the actual show, they
okay. I didn't even bother to check again after watching the trailer, but nicely done. A bit of Photoshop.
That the reason Giorgio is in such big danger is because she's both from another dimension and also a time traveler. Or
yes.
Or was it just that she had traveled, or was it she was from? Because I was thinking like Kirk and Picard and those guys have all done both of those things,
right? And he also said it had something to do with
if you do both of those and like stay, if you don't go back, then it'll kill you.
But also
okay.
the mirror universe is moving apart from our universe.
Yeah, it was getting worse as time went by,
right.
too.
And I
So
think
you
of
can-
like the Kelvin timeline as like a bubble on top of our universe. So it's like a bubble on top of a sphere, right? Like kind of like in the Doctor's Wife.
Oh, Stephen Hawking here.
or whatever. But the mirror universe is a whole
Actually, the
different
doctor
bubble,
said
and
that's
it's
not how it is. But if you need to think about it like that, you can. But you're still wrong.
right.
I think
know.
they said that in the Doctor's Wife as well.
This was
Wow, nice,
excellently
Father.
written by Neil Gaiman.
Nice, Father.
But,
Nice.
But yeah, so I think it is pretty cool to like acknowledge the Kelvin universe. Also, this episode is like the first time they're really saying like prime universe and mirror universe.
Yeah.
In season 2, Giorgio did mention like her prime universe or her prime counterpart.
Yeah.
But here, like, this is the first time they've ever called the mirror universe the mirror universe. But I
Oh,
think
that's
that makes
interesting. I did not realize that they had like for so long held off on doing that.
Yeah.
By the way,
that's
I
the
see.
terminology that we use though. Like, you know, in Deep Space Nine, they always called it the alternate universe, and it used to like bug me as a kid because I was like, well, they always call it like the mirror universe, and like the Star Trek Encyclopedia, and like on StarTrek.com they call it the mirror universe. So why don't they just say that on the show?
Yeah, I guess it's one of those things like the same trouble they have in movies when they're trying to come up with a superhero's name, which in the comics they've just had the name forever, and it came from a time when, you know, those kind of colorful names were standard. But they try and work it into the show. They're like, well, we have to come up with some reason that either they proclaim themselves that name.
They just start saying mirror universe for like no reason, and no one cares. It's fine.
Yeah, that's the thing is I think you can usually just get away with just doing it.
Yeah.
I do like that they know on our side that there was a temporal incursion of some kind, even though they're not quite sure what's on the other side. So I like that Picard and company kind of maybe thought, well, maybe Spock didn't die, you know, in this like incident. Maybe he's actually on the other side. Who knows? Like, I don't know how like they think.
I would prefer that rather than just a grimdark assumption.
Right.
Well, I mean, he died stopping the subspace explosive wave that was going to threaten all the other star systems. So even if he died a hero. I mean, it's not
he was also like super fucking old, so we can just assume he was going to die soon anyways.
Yeah. Well, for a human, he's super fucking old.
He's half human. He's half human.
That's true.
Um,
He aged a lot faster than your typical Vulcan.
Yeah,
what is this,
I do wonder if
is this the COVID guidelines?
Yeah. Does this mean is that what might have killed off Spock in Star Trek Beyond?
Possibly.
It's the same thing that's killing off Giorgio here.
He didn't live long, but he also like time traveled to a point in time where his molecules did exist. Like he was alive in that time. So I would assume
your molecules get changed out every 2 to 7 years. So
I think it wasn't as they seem to indicate that like the further you go, the bigger of a problem it is.
Yeah.
So I don't think it would have been as big of a problem for him.
Well, he also lasted a lot longer. He lasted several years, 3 years or something like that before he
4 years.
Yeah. So it still might be what happened if you want to think
It
about
probably
it.
didn't help his health.
Yeah. I
So,
did
I
like how
I have the same thought.
Yeah. I did like that how this nicely builds on the idea that we have from Enterprise that there's a quantum dating you can do with matter from another time, from the future or the past, and from what we see in Parallels in the Next Generation, that there's a quantum signature that you can compare to see if you're in your home timeline or not. That all ties really nicely with the idea that you're the matter you pull from different points in time and space is not quite happy in this new place. And it nicely explains the really bizarre stuff that was happening to her from a special effect point of view. I was like, what the heck would cause that? And I was like, oh, okay. She's literally not meant to be in this reality. She's literally reality and her are actually having a fight. So yeah, I actually thought that was a really nice way of tying in some old continuity and this stuff. It is also noteworthy that if she had lived here long enough, all of her molecules would have been replaced by matter from this universe. But clearly it's becoming a problem and going to kill her before she can replace all the matter that she's got in her body with new matter just through eating food. But so yeah, I thought that was all very well done. Some great
use of food on Tilly.
So, I beg you.
I said instead she's throwing her food onto Tilly.
Yes.
You know, I hated that Tilly was so quick to forgive her later. And I hate that Saru was too. Honestly, I feel like she has been a toxic, horrible person to them, and that showing empathy in the future doesn't mean you can't have a backbone.
I think
I
they
would-
seriously thought she was gonna die. She's gonna die and not come
Yeah.
back. So I think that's why they're like, all right, well, we don't want to like,
they thought that was the last conversation they were going to have with her.
yeah.
I also wonder if in Saru's case, there's a little bit of him having some insight into the growth that she has done that, like Starfleet says, Boy says, she is hiding, and he's trying to nurture that a bit.
Show me that to just have him say something like, yeah, because to me it makes those characters look kind of weak. I don't need everybody to be Kirk.
See,
But
I loved every Saru scene in this.
I need them to be a little stronger than that and not get walked over, on their own ship by somebody from the evil universe. So that if afterwards Tilly had said to Saru, just in this 20-second scene, said, "I didn't expect to do that. I was so mad at her earlier today." And he said, and then they just briefly said what you said, Brian. He's like, she's like, but I guess it's going to be the last time we've seen her, and maybe in a roundabout way, she was good for me. And and Saru were to say something like, and perhaps she is not the person that we once thought. Now I know they wanted to show that a little bit throughout the episode,
I think they kind of pity her. I think they kind of feel sorry for her, like when she has being a dick to Tilly and to everyone else.
I would like him for them to go ahead and say it.
Yeah, well, I think that was certainly evident in this episode, but even in some of the earlier ones, in season 2 and in the beginning of season 3, she's this mad, bad, dangerous person. But by the time we get to even some of the more recent episodes, her cartoonish nature is actually being observed and commented on as being cartoonish by the other members of the crew.
Sure, but she's still talking shit to them basically in front of the bridge crew and stuff like that.
Yeah, but they're not like a bunch of thin-skinned bitches. Like they're like, oh yeah, you're just being the grumpy asshole.
I don't think it's being thin-skinned to not want food thrown on you.
Yeah. I'll admit Tilly's reaction might have been a little far, though. The look on Giorgio when she gets hugged later was amazing.
I wonder that pretty well done for what it was. I just in context I didn't like.
Even though Prime Saru no longer has his threat ganglia, I wonder if he can still sense that she's changed, to your point earlier, because later in the Mirror Universe she even says to Saru, "Notice your ganglia is not responding to me. That means I'm not a threat to you." I wonder if that's something that's going on.
No, I think that's quite possible, but I again, it just comes down to me wanting to see the characters speak about it a little bit.
I like your I hadn't caught that, but you're right. I think they even said behind the scenes that Saru's fear, or he maybe in an episode, that his fear sensing powers, he retained them after he went through the V thing. Yeah,
the Vavavoom.
Yeah, Vavavoom. So yeah, he would know when she's just talking shit and when she's actually dangerous. That I really like that. That puts a lot better.
What's his Vance here says he gives Saru some advice on maintaining the kind of the faith of the crew, and I liked his advice.
Yeah, I love that.
But it's another, it's like also you should, show the crew that you're worthy of respect. And that's why I think all the stuff with Giorgio has been bugging me so much. But I also, well, go ahead, Brian.
No, go. Finish your point.
I guess I have another point to make about Vance. I just feel like he's supposed to be, initially at least, he was the tough captain who was if
Admiral.
you keep this up, I'm going to take your badge or whatever. And he kind of hasn't. I don't think he's pushed them I don't think the Disco crew has had to make strong choices, because it seems like anytime they do something risky, it always pays off. And he's like, well, we can cover the Emerald Chain. We'll go ahead and do this because it's worth saving a person. I kind of want him to be in a tighter spot, I think.
I liked that he told them to go ahead and go, because to me what that said is, listen, I get sick of you guys leaving me out of the loop and just breaking orders and going off and doing rogue shit. Just come to me and ask me. I'm not unreasonable. So I'm going to throw you a bone here so that in the future they'll say, maybe we should just talk to the Admiral and maybe the Admiral will let us do the crazy thing.
I love that line of dialogue from him where he says, take it from an old salt who made a lot of bad calls in his day. And, you do get the sense that he's speaking from experience. And I think that the show has incredibly emphasized the point. I think it's more than abundantly clear that, he has had to make like a bunch of difficult choices and he is in such a compromised situation. So I really appreciated the show taking a moment here to show that he still holds true to a lot of those classic Star Trek values and the things that we want to see in Starfleet. After so much of the cynical Starfleet we saw, trying to bomb home planets in Discovery season 1 or like infiltrated by the Tal Shiar and Picard, this is the exact Starfleet I needed. And Admiral Vance continues to grow on me. I really, really like this character.
Nice.
I like Vance's I fully agree with his point about going for your crew. It's just that we were told early on that he has all these fires to put out, that Discovery can actually be very helpful to them. And then Discovery just keeps cutting out and it seems like there's no consequences.
I feel like
it undercuts their own premise.
It did occur to me, especially in this instance, they could just spore jump to the planet, drop off Book and his ship and whoever else they think needs to be as a support team for the mission to save Giorgio, and then jump back to Starfleet and say, we'll be back in a week to pick you up. And that would have kept Discovery available for Vance and still allowed the attempt to save Giorgio to be undertaken. And maybe it's a real long flight back. So if Discovery gets blowed up, they've got like several months or maybe even years to get back to the Federation. But I bet you could put a team together that would be willing to take that risk, even if it was just Michael, which is kind of what we get anyway. Speaking of character, what do we think of Kovich? He came off as awfully racist to me, but
I didn't pick up on that.
He's like, she's Terran. Terran is a branch of humanity that you just can't trust. They can never be redeemed. They need to be locked up. If she thinks she's going to die, she's just going to go nuts. And it sounded very much like he was judging.
Wow, you just exposed exposed my own Terran racism, Brian, because I didn't even notice that.
It's not different from Spock saying, Gary Mitchell is going to be fucking insanely dangerous. We need to abandon him on a planet and
no,
get the
it's
hell
not
out
the
of here.
same. It's not the same as a god.
No, because like there's a genetic difference in the Terrans. Like
there's a genetic difference in lots of human races. That doesn't mean you automatically judge them all.
Star Trek has actually said it's like, an evil gene or a propensity for, if you want to like just reframe it, chaos or something like that.
Yeah, do we really want to have evil gene humans in Star Trek? Is that really where we want to go?
That is something that they straight up set up with their Mirror Universe premise
a few episodes ago.
I think because the Mirror Universe is such a...
But the person who said it was Kovich, who has proven to be racist. So do we really trust him on this gene theory?
How is he proven to be racist?
Can we say he's at least prejudiced, Father?
He's definitely judging her by her
I'll
DNA.
say that he's biased, but
biased. Okay.
I think it is a the Mirror Universe comes from a sort of pulp sci-fi tradition, and there's a lot of pulp sci-fi that does have those kind of things in there, or famous fantasy works like innately evil orcs and Lord of the Rings and stuff like that. And there's an in-story reason for them. They're like infused with malice, but it serves as a it's not too hard to look at it and see a racial metaphor if you want.
Yeah.
But the Mirror Universe is a bunch of evil people.
Yeah. Well, this episode points out very strongly that it's all a nurture thing and not a nature thing. By the end of this episode, it's pretty clear that Kovich's gene theory is not.
Do you think
there's a lot more to it than just that gene?
That's a good point. But it is what you're saying about like a nature nurture thing. But there is like a societal thing in there, and we do see like that she is like on the warpath. Like she wants someone to fight her and kill her when we get that confrontation with Burnham. And I love the intentional mirroring of this scene with the two of them, and then when we get to the end of the episode with her holding a sword to Burnham's neck.
Yeah, I hadn't got that.
Early Gray Trekkie mentioned that in the comments. I noticed too.
Nice.
So that's a cool little thing. There's a few little mirror things that they do primarily with these two characters that I'll get into with the Gorn eggs. But we have nothing else about that stuff. I'll just move us along. The Discovery does a spore jump to the planet Danis 5. They don't really know what to expect when they get there, but we have this cool little gear up scene. We see that these hand phasers, by the way, they just kind of collapse onto your wrist, so it's cool, like shrinking technology for your weapons. Saru and Tilly both say what they assume, I think, is going to be their final goodbyes to Giorgio. She beams down with Burnham down to the snowy Canadian forest. They have a little conversation about just talking about the mirror universe Burnham and why did Giorgio save her? Why did she like adopt her in that universe? And she said, I found that version of you on this trash heap, but you're the only child there that wasn't begging for salvation. You were like taking care of yourself and running the show there, and I respected that. And they encounter Carl, who is this guy basically from like the 1960s Twilight Zone. Whenever they needed like an angel or a genie or some like weird supernatural presence, there's always like this type of guy. But yeah, he looks like a guy from mid 20th century Earth. He shows up with some dad jokes about a door and says that Giorgio can pass through this door. That'll be the answer that she needs. And they're skeptical. Burnham tries scanning it, and she's like, "Oh, this seems like a little weird to me. I don't know about this." But yeah, Giorgio's having her little molecule weird attack breakdown
She's
thing.
buffering.
Yeah, she's buffering. So she's like, "Okay, yeah, like fuck this. I'm not having any more of that. I'm gonna go through this door." And she steps through it, and boom! Suddenly, she is back in the mirror universe. This stuff.
I like seeing real snow in Star Trek. It's so rare that we get real snow. I guess there's Star Trek 6, and there's probably a few once or twice else that I'm forgetting, though I can't think of it off the top of my head.
It's actually real snow. Did they confirm that on something?
It looks like real snow, but I've spent enough time in Alaska. I could tell the difference between fake Hollywood snow and real snow, and that was real snow. It also wasn't consistent. Like sometimes it was snowing and sometimes it wasn't because the weather wasn't necessarily behaving the way they wanted it to. But gotcha. I appreciated it as an Alaskan. I appreciated getting to see some real snow in there.
That's pretty.
And I love
real planetary rings.
Oh yeah, I will also say
that was an effect.
Yeah.
Oh really?
Yeah. The dialogue between the two of them in this whole sequence leading up to meeting with Carl is amazing. Every line advances our understanding of either that person or the person they're speaking to. And there's this wonderful push and pull going back and forth between them. But each line is also revealing and yet feels true to the characters that are delivering them. And the execution of the lines is amazing. I was just like, this is some top-notch stuff. This is what I dream about, what it would be great to be like to be able to write and perform really good dialogue in my role-playing games. This is what I'm imagining, is something this energized and this complex. And yeah, I loved all of that leading up to Carl. That was just great.
Jude Beacom says Earth's rings are actually visible from Ontario. I wish. I really wish. I wish we had rings. It would be amazing if Earth had rings.
I should have played along with this and said, yeah, you can see them from Alaska too. I dropped the ball on that.
Father, I'm sure you're going to talk about this later, or maybe we can talk about it now. But do you guys have any idea what Carl might be, or do you think it's something new?
Yeah, I mean that's something to speculate about. I see a lot of people like thinking he might be a Q, and I've even seen like the name online, Carl, but spelled with a Q instead of a C is the first.
Well, I
letter.
did that as a joke, but I actually think he might be a manifestation or a like being as the Guardian from City on the Edge of Forever. That's my.
Yeah, he does. He does seem like a guardian of forever. The door kind of functions similarly to the how the guardian.
And he's got the same newspapers that show up when you use the Guardian of Forever.
This newspaper has a few Gorn eggs in it that I'll get into.
A ton actually.
I will say also you can take large hunks of his dialogue and just put it into the mouth of the Guardian of Forever, and it would sound exactly like the weird way the Guardian likes to speak. So that is also a bit of a pointer, whereas it doesn't quite sound as smart ass as a Q does. You know, Q is generally yeah, Qs are condescending, not cryptic.
They're not stationary. Well, I mean, like. I guess if you think Trelane as a Q, you know, he just hung out on Gothos all day. But, you know, typically you wouldn't be able to like, oh, let's go to this planet. We can meet a Q there. They're kind of just, you know, hopping all over the universe.
I wouldn't mind like if they did a clever connection, like maybe some Q can be punished to be these things, like, you know, or whatever. But I don't mind at all if the Q doesn't come into it, though. Yeah. What's that?
It seems like an overcomplication, to like try to like force a Q into the story. Whereas like, oh, if he's just like if there's like multiple Guardians of Forever and he's just another one,
right?
You know,
there's a lot of Forever to cover. So.
Exactly.
What is there any notion as to like why y'all mentioned he had the newspaper, but like why he would take a mid 20th century Earth guise or anything like that? It felt very kind of TNG or TOS as far as. But also Doctor Who, because of it was so quirky and kind of cryptic and all that stuff.
And Twilight Zone, as Fathery has already observed, very Twilight Zone. But
yeah,
I like that.
Anything else to me, but yeah, it's something that I'm waiting to see explored in season 2, and I hope that I like it because I love the first part of the story so much.
You just mean episode 2 or part 2 of this?
Part 2.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I meant to say it and part 2 of the story.
I will say, I do wonder if Carl, this is something my wife pointed out to me, might be a reference to Carl Jung and his propensity, his therapy ideas about diving into your imagination to confront the difficult things in your past or present in a narrative like structure. Which kind of seems to be what that door led to. Was that why Carl was chosen? Now it's spelled with a C in the subtitles, not a K, but still. Actually, no, is Carl Jung spelled with a C or a K? Now I can't remember. Anyway, so that was kind of and as we mentioned, as I mentioned numerous times back in the Trill episodes, I love stories that dive into one's unconscious and visually manifests various aspects of your inner conflict. So, of course, this was great.
That's another big mystery is, does she actually go back in time, like in City on the Edge of Forever? Or is she in kind of a fabrication of her past? Like Picard and Tapestry.
I'm going to guess that it's that second thing, and I'm going to guess she's going to have to do something bold, like die within this setting to do something that might be a righteous, to not kill Michael or something like that, and that will be part of what realigns her with the innately good Prime Universe genetics.
While we're on that subject, and while we're talking about like the snowy imagery of the episode, it does feel like a little bit Christmas Carol. It feels like ghosts are like teaching her like the true meaning of Christmas or something, which is seasonally appropriate. And they didn't even expect this to air in December. So it's kind of like,
good job, COVID.
I like how an unintentional episode that we thought worked really well in October. But we can go ahead and move on unless anyone has anything else to say about Carl and Danis 5.
More Carl in the next episode, but then after that, I don't care.
I think more explanation. If he's just like, oh, this is a convenient man with a magic door. I'm like, well, that was really dumb. You could have put a little bit more thought into that.
I didn't like the convenient man with the magic doors sent to them by the convenient computer with the magic insights.
I don't mind that. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, like, I would kind of again, this is just take a line or two somewhere here and there. The sphere data is so powerful, and like it has helped them, but they keep saying things like, "I think it's trying to help us." I feel like at this point, you probably would have wanted to look into it, run a diagnostic, converse with it, any sort of scientific experimentation.
I have one more question.
I suspect it's kind of like a helpful ghost. If it doesn't want to talk to you, it just doesn't answer.
It's consciousness. Like it only spoke with that Zora voice one time.
Yeah, but they're predicating her life on it. They're doing a mission that's taking them away from Starfleet. It's big stuff.
It's like
they have no better plan.
Die if you don't do this. There's a 5% chance that she won't.
Yeah, it's a 5% chance that she.
I guess I want him to sell me on I get that. I think the show wants the sphere to be, a good assistant, and I like the idea. I like the idea of the sentient computer, but it's just bizarre to me. And again, the level of we don't ever talk about technology ever of like Battlestar Galactica to not even have people discuss it. Like nobody talks about the sphere data. You never see Saru talk about it in depth with Tilly or something.
They talked about it a lot in season 2, and then I think we got like a little bit more this week where they're talking about like it's merged with even more new information now.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel like, are you satisfied with the level of both curiosity and maybe even wonder at Carl that they displayed? Like, or do you think they should have been a little more freaked out maybe or anything like that?
Giorgio freaked out at almost nothing, but and Michael seemed to be playing it cool. Okay, let's see what they're
Michael, if I'm not mistaken, she was kind of she was like, this is crazy. And normally Giorgio would be too, because she's kind of a rationalist in a kind of a cold clinical way. But I think because she is staring down the barrel of death right now, she was a little bit more, in fact, radically open-minded to some possibility for any forward movement.
And I suppose if the sphere data had said, if you go to this planet, there'll be this old guy from mid-20th century Earth with a magic door, and if she walks through the magic door, it will fix her. Would that have increased the probability of them going to this planet or decreased it?
Well, ultimately, it's not going to be a magic door, in that there is a Star Trekian explanation for it. And I get if they might not want to give up the
that'd be like shitty storytelling. Like let it unfold in the course of the story.
Sure. But sometimes characters, if they don't ask the questions, they seem kind of dumb. And it's just one of those where if like I knew anything about this sort of sphere computer other than that it's kind of, I don't know, I guess cryptic or helpful, but not like a traditional computer where you can just converse and ask it anything in Star Trek.
He doesn't trust the computer.
He's like, no, I know that the show wants me to trust it. I just don't think it's made a good case.
It's not good for anything else. I think you do have a little bit of a point that like we as the audience are more keen to trust it because we've seen Calypso and we know the trajectory. But I
don't need them to spend it. I don't need them to spend a long time on it. But if they said, hey, what is this thing? And it's like, it said something like, it's like, that data cannot be revealed until, the equation has run its course or something like that. And they're like, well, we don't know quite what that means either, but clearly the sphere won't tell us, I would just like somebody to ask.
Like there's a little bit more clarity. I could see that working. I mean, like for me, I didn't need it. It wasn't a priority, but it wouldn't have hurt. I would have still liked it with that in there. So yeah, why not have done that? I think that's valid.
It does remind me a lot of the computer character of Aurak, short for Oracle, obviously, from Lake 7, that would often offer these prognostications and stuff without giving a lot of contextual data, or would just say data still processing, stuff like that. And
the 60s style.
They'd have to decide 70s. Whether or not they trusted Aurak or not, based on things. But Aurak generally had their best interests at heart. So
let's talk about Giorgio's arrival in the Mirror Universe. She's on the Mirror Universe Discovery and is greeted by the Disco crew under the command of Captain Killy, who is just like super sexy in this episode. And I am so glad that we finally got to meet Captain Killy. I am now
the real Captain Killy.
I'm converting from hashtag silly for Tilly to hashtag silly for Killy.
Nice.
But yeah, she has this conversation with Giorgio that, Giorgio figures out like, oh, this is the day that we christen the Charon, and it's also the day that Lorca starts his coup against me, and Burnham will betray me to him. And Tilly seems to know that this is in motion, but she is on the Emperor's side. She does make it clear to us, the audience, though, that if Giorgio doesn't kill Burnham for betraying her, if she tries to show mercy, it will make her look weak in the eyes of her honor guard, and they'll murder her. But Giorgio is convinced, like, oh, I get to go back in time. I get to like fix everything. I'm gonna have my cake and eat it too. I'm gonna get like this Burnham that is supposed to be my daughter, the one that I'm close with. I'm gonna make her act right and restore my family and restore my throne, and everything will just be perfect. And there's also a party on the disco. There's some shots people are drinking. They're like playing a drinking game with like the agonizers. There's some helping slaves.
That made me crack up.
It was so fun to like see these mirror universe versions of our disco characters, including this really cool introduction of Mirror Universe Burnham, who we've never seen the actual Mirror Universe Burnham before. And she is just like out of control evil. Like Sonequa Martin Green is so good at this type of stuff, and she can like project emotions so well with just her face. And when she walks up and just says mother to Giorgio, it's just like, oh, like this is a bad bitch. Like, we're in trouble now. This is a serious threat to Giorgio, our protagonist.
Something about her like losing that kind of somewhat stiff posture that she used to have, less so now in the Prime universe. But yeah, where she's just doesn't give a fuck. Like, she's like a pirate sitting around ready to kill at any moment's notice.
I love
and don't
also
forget
that
about Landry. We have the return of Landry, who I was not expecting, and I don't know. I just laughed when I saw her being such an asshole because she's just a total asshole, like every depiction Commander Landry. But yeah, like she has like a Kelpian who like spilled curse sauce, whatever that is, spilled curse sauce on her. So he's getting taken off to be made into soup, I guess. And Saru gets in trouble too. Saru brings a glass of wine to Burnham when she didn't want it, and Burnham freaks out. And Giorgio, this is where we see like Giorgio like show mercy. She's like, oh, I kind of like that Saru guy after I got to know him. And she's like,
yeah, she's gotta hide it though.
Yeah, she has to hide it. She's like, I'm gonna take the slave and I'll torture him. But we see like in Burnham, we see the wheels turning, and the reason why Lorca and Burnham in the Mirror Universe want to betray Giorgio is they think that she has gotten soft. So now she is observing it. And what do y'all think about like Giorgio's situation here in the party and the disco and all of this stuff?
Well, I just want to say first that Sonequa Martin Green ate the scenery wonderfully. She like gobbled it up and chewed it up, and it was wonderful watching her perform. And I really liked when you pointed out like this, actually we're actually seeing the real Mirror Burnham and the real Mirror Killy, and that was cool, like, because you have something to compare it to. Like, now you see that Burnham was like way off and obvious that she was not the same Burnham. So I loved it, and they were different enough in really neat ways, and I'm sure we'll talk about this more in later scenes. But Sonequa Martin Green like gave Joker vibes. Like, she was just unhinged and crazy. Like, it was very cool.
Like she was about to perform a magic trick with a pencil.
And I agree with everything you were saying in your summary, Father. Like, spot on about like Giorgio and like all the you. I think you broke this scene apart really well.
Yeah, the big takeaway I had at the beginning when she comes off the shuttle is Giorgio has been able to adjust and keep her cool under every single crazy thing this show has thrown at her, including her own hand becoming insubstantial. But suddenly being dropped in her home has her going clearly a little flustered, a little stammering. I mean, she covers it pretty well, but it's more flustered than we've seen her pretty much anywhere else in the history of her character. And I thought that was very interesting, that going home is the thing that the place where she should feel the most natural is in fact the place where we finally get to see her being a little flustered. And
it shows that she's changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think she looks and sees these people are all just a bunch of two-dimensional cartoons. I never noticed that before. And now I can't stop noticing it.
That's what I like more about her than what happened with Lorca. When Lorca came to the Prime Universe and he commanded this Discovery ship, and he turned that crew of scientists into like these warriors to fight the Klingons and all this stuff. And he didn't, but he himself was not changed by his time in the Prime Universe, in his time in Starfleet. So I like this more that Giorgio did like absorb some of those Starfleet values, and she always had a spark of it to begin with, I think, because she genuinely loved her daughter Michael, and maybe some type of like weird fucked up way, but we learned like that love is not returned from this Michael.
Most everything that anyone does in the mirror universe is usually with ulterior motives, and so the purity of her feelings for Michael, or relative purity of them, is probably an indicator of that capacity to change. And then it occurs to me that it's not just that she's seeing them as like kind of two-dimensional villains, it's that she has been exposed to so much of the opposite in the Prime Universe, and she has seen people be selfless constantly, including the very reason that she's there is because they're being selfless and trying to save her. And so
Lorca also had the advantage or disadvantage of not being known, whereas I think what helps with Giorgio is that a lot of people that she's around knows what's up, like they know she's from the Mirror Universe and they're not tolerating and also Lorca had the power of being a captain. Giorgio's essentially been stripped of her like power, even though she sometimes acts like a admiral or whatever, puts on an admiral's uniform. Essentially she's powerless on the Discovery, as opposed to Lorca, who had the captaincy.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
In defense, we don't know exactly what Lorca was like before. Clearly, he was still not on the side of the angels by the time he was done with his stint as captain of Discovery. But we don't actually have solid data of just how big of a monster was he beforehand. We just have to infer it from a few things other people says, and certainly he's still a bad guy when it didn't fix him.
That's what I'm saying. Like he didn't seem to have learned anything from it.
Yeah.
Whereas Giorgio did.
Mind you, they were trying to fix Giorgio. Nobody was trying to fix Lorca except the Admiral Cornwall.
I will say both. I will say though that Lorca did have a fondness for Burnham, that because of his relationship with this Burnham, and that was interesting. And maybe that touched him a little, but I don't know.
Yeah. I liked that. I mean, the level of change she has experienced. She's been stuck in this other the Prime universe where Michael keeps trying to change her, and she at least admits that to some degree. I think she has to admit that she has been changed, even if she didn't realize it till she got back here to the Mirror Universe. But now that she's here, the first thing she wants to do is to change Michael. This universe is Michael. I thought that was really intriguing that she kept fighting against being changed before, but once she's here, she wants to change Michael, and this is like her top priority goal is to try to change Michael.
Right. When she was in the Prime universe, she was like, I want this Michael to be more like my Michael. But then when she goes back to the Mirror universe and to her Michael, she's like, no, I actually want you to be more like the Prime universe. It's like you don't realize what you have until you lose it. And she's like, I actually like the nice one more than the evil one.
Kind of subconsciously, she may have been pushing back against Michael because that would have to... She there's some part of her that wants to reciprocate Prime Universe Michael's compassion for her, And she doesn't like that part of herself. She doesn't want to acknowledge it. So she pushes Michael away. She talks about how much she prefers Mirror Michael. But it's because she's scared. I think she's been increasingly afraid of revealing herself.
Yes. No, I think you're both very correct on that. But she wants to pass it on. Michael fixed her to some small degree, so now she wants to fix this universe's Michael. And I thought that was kind of interesting and sweet. She doesn't just want to use her knowledge of the future to advance her own political power. Like, oh, traitor, kill all those people. And she doesn't just use her knowledge to advance herself. Her top priority is actually to as Father E put it, to make this Michael more like her Michael, or more like the Prime Michael. And I thought that was, fascinating stuff. Definitely.
In the comments,
some might say she was paying it forward.
In the comments, Stress-Free K, watching us live, he says, OMG, Colbert gets the best outfits. Remember when he came back from the dead dressed like he was going out on the town, highly stylish he is. Yeah, but here we see him in the red medical uniform that they designed for season 1, and I was sad we didn't get to see it because it looks so cool. And then I did like, oh yeah, here like the doctors wear red instead of white. I love that so much.
They also hide the blood.
Yeah, they also had the dot 7s that I'm not particularly a fan of, but in this universe, the dot 7s are black and have red eyes, and they look evil. Or these evil little murder droids floating around.
Because of course they do.
You think they've all got agonizers equipped on them?
Probably, yeah. It's like a fun Goofy. Like Star Trek can have like that little bit of like a little bit of off kilter, a
little bit of pulp.
Yeah, like that little pulp whimsy, like a little not quite silly, but just like fun. It's fun. Well, let's move on to after Saru after Giorgio takes in slave Saru to save him. This kind of gives her a character to talk to. We never cut away. We never break away from the mirror universe after this is initiated. So this is kind of like the one person she can be a little bit more open and honest with and have a conversation with. He's like getting her dressed and ready for the big ceremony for the Charon, and she's asking, you are Burnham's slave. I know she's sleeping with Lorca. What are they talking about? What are they doing? And Saru confesses to her. He's like, yeah, well, they think that you are weak, and like the Terran saying, he who sheds the most blood makes the laws, and they don't think that you have that viciousness anymore. And even like she knows like the Harai, that she's like not enough of like a xenophobic racist that like she learns like this one alien word, and they're like, they would kill you for that.
They're like, ugh.
Yeah, so she looks so cool and regal when they get like this crown on her, where it's like kind of like a lot of like emperors in the past have like images of like halos or like the sun radiating from them, like just like a symbol of like divinity and stuff. And Michelle Yeoh like carries like a certain weight. It's just so fun to watch. We see a fight between Owo and Reese. They're fighting over like taking command of the security district on the Charon, which I knew Owo would win because we saw her commanding the Charon security people in season 1. And after that, they have the actual ceremony where Stamets puts on like a little theater. I'm sure Anthony Rapp was into this, and it's, what do you call it? Like the weird French circus Olay or whatever. What do you call that?
Circus Olay.
That's what it's called?
Yeah, it's got that kind of acrobatic / artsiness to it.
And he has like
there's a name for this form of dance, but I forget. It's like air dancing or something.
It's like you dance around hanging on like a curtain. Yeah, someone in the comments who's not as dumb as me, let us know what it is. But yeah, like it's like this little like poem that he recites about Giorgio, kind of like retells her rise to power for revealing the ship, the Charon, and then he pulls out a knife. He's obviously working for Burnham. It's all done like visually with just like close-ups of Burnham, close-ups of Stamets, the knife coming out, and he's like her little assassin. But Giorgio turns around and stabs Stamets before he can stab her, and she is not going to be taken down today. So the truth comes out that Burnham, I guess, is the culprit. She is ambushed in the corridor by Killy and the Emperor. And when she's disarmed, Giorgio has the option to kill her, just cut off her head with her sword, but she decides not to do that. She spares Burnham and says to stick her in an agony booth. And we're left on like this cliffhanger of what's going to happen now that the Emperor has like shown her weakness in front of Owo and Killy and everyone else. So what do y'all think about these developments?
I want to start really quickly by saying the Emperor's outfit, the fact that that crown and everything stays perfect the whole time during all of this is really impressive. And I love that one shot of the sun, how it like, you know that they orchestrated it to be that way, but that one shot of the sun, like not the sun, what is it? Sorry, the singularity or whatever it is.
Sphere of mycelial energy.
Thank you. Yes. That is like beautifully framed.
It lines up, with her crown thing. You know, I always mention the Ready Room, but they very specifically go into the costuming of the Mirror Universe this week, and it's really cool to see. They did a lot more work with it, seemed this time, and they improved on some of the stuff from season 1. And it's also a hoot to see the rest of the bridge crew in a big Zoom call with like 6 people in it, I think, talking about stuff, you know, how they work together, how they've been building their rapport, the fun they got to have as Mirror Universe characters. And there's even like a fun thing where Will Wheaton asks them to, like, if they were in any position on the bridge but the spot that their character is in, what would it be? And it doesn't seem like it'd be that necessarily that provocative a question, but it ends up there's some really interesting answers in the mix and funny stuff. They're all laughing and having a great time. So I highly recommend it if you were enjoying the aesthetic or you just want to find out some more about those bridge.
Yeah, I'm going to check it out for sure.
So this makes things really interesting because we know that Stamets was alive after the Lorca coup. We saw Mirror Universe.
I'm not
Stamets
convinced he's dead.
In season
I'm not
1.
convinced he's dead.
Well, yeah, I mean, maybe he's not dead. Maybe they revive him, but I think that was kind of an intentional indication to the audience that this does not necessarily have to go the same way as what we knew would played out in the Mirror Universe in season 1. Things will be different here. If she actually is back in time, she can like alter the past, or I think it's a little bit more likely that this is all just kind of like a tapestry style fabrication, and she's not actually back in time. But yeah, I mean, like she didn't capture, you know, Burnham. Instead, I guess she had like Burnham killed while she was off trying to capture Lorca, but she was actually trying to probably just like, you know, get back to him and like join forces with him. So this is already like a huge divergence from what we saw going on in season 1, the Mirror Universe. So that I think now that we have like Killy instead of Tilly in the Mirror Universe, I think that instead of calling him Commander Stamets, I think he should be Commander Stabets.
I support this.
I did want to point out again how amazing all the conversations between Giorgio and evil Michael were, especially in how well written they were and directed. Again, they managed to continuously work in double meetings. Like they're talking about those 2 crew members fighting in the hallway, but they're really talking about the 2 of them getting into a fight themselves.
And Giorgio says that loyalty will win. And Owo was like fighting for like the glory of the Emperor, whereas Reese was fighting because he wanted to rule the red light district of the Charon, which I love it. The Charon has like a red light district, and they said in the Ready Room that Dave was talking about, like Reese even like intentionally kind of looks like he's like strung out on drugs or something. Like he
wanted to kind of look gaunt.
So, and they most of the conversations and stuff and interactions like that happen are these wonderful subtext going on about what they're really saying to each other, which we the audience get, even though nobody else standing in the room would probably realize what's going on. And sometimes I don't even think Michael quite realizes, because obviously Giorgio has a lot of insider information in this version of history. And so that was incredibly fun to watch all of those little exchanges and little, subtextual feints and stabs and swings.
It's always kind of fascinating to see someone who is both powerless and simultaneously in control of a situation. And Burnham on her knees with a blade to her throat, but clearly kind of controlling the scene at the end is very, peak mirror universe evilness.
when she confesses, when she's like, "Yes, I betrayed you," and we get the reveal of, why did you do it? And I saved you. I took you out of squalor and raised you into greatness. And she says, I liked being in that trash heap. I liked being the emperor of my little hill, and now I'm just like your pawn. And so yeah, that was interesting. And then it is kind of weird that there's all this talk about Lorca and we don't see any of it from him. I would like to see Lorca, mirror universe Lorca, like in his, like, no pun intended, like in his prime, like when he is like initiating his coup and all of this stuff. And I picture it's kind of like a bit of a predatory relationship between him and Burnham. And like, but the way that she's like, like she's siding with him because like he genuinely loves her. And I think there is like some feelings there on his part based on how he treated Prime Universe Michael, but I think it'd be interesting to explore that.
Yeah.
It would certainly make sense to reveal him in the second episode as kind of a big to-do.
But they need to do it before the opening credits because that'll spoil it if it'll say like special guest star Jason Isaacs. So they need to do it. They need to do that in the teaser before we get to the opening credits next week.
Hollywood needs to allow in its legalese and its fine print that credit can be like sort of bounced around as long as it's in the episode by the end credits. If it's for a good reason.
They do that sometimes, but most of the time they don't take the time to change the format.
I agree with you, and I think that'd be a good way to kick off the show with a bang. Even though, again, I'm not super into the mirror universe return, but I do agree that'd be cool.
And I wasn't expecting to see Landry again in this episode. By the way, I do want to comment about her just always being a total asshole. Is that when Reese is like defeated by Owo and they kind of call off the fight and Michael's all pissed off and it's like, I just kill each other on your own time. And Landry like walks up to Reese as he's like laying on the floor and just like kicks him for no reason. And like, I don't know why, that just made me like laugh out loud. I was like what the fuck, like why? But I do hope this, they can get like wacky with this and just like kill whoever, like do whatever, just get like fun mirror universe trashy with it. And I want to see Commander Landry die a third time.
That would be fun. Father, while I was watching this, I think Brian, I believe one of the reasons why you've never been in love with the mirror universe concept is because it kind of breaks down under like even a light analysis.
Yes.
Where you're like, oh, well, if they're this, murderous, as far as trying to, have their Game of Thrones, then things would have diverged, long ago wildly because, every time we visit, it seems like one or two named characters die.
Yeah.
And it was for sure like Saru could have gone in here. Stamets gone. Michael could go, like anybody could at a given time. And it's true. Like, I think that's just the premise was not meant to necessarily, be suspended for so long, or for us to suspend disbelief over it so long. So it's got some weak points, but usually I think people have enough fun that they find it worth it.
And
that's exactly how I feel about it.
And I will say, I think the first time they brought it back for DS9, I was totally willing to go along with it just on the fun level, but then it became tedious after that. But
like Star Trek kind of I'm not going to say they invented the idea of the mirror universe, but they certainly popularized it, and so I can understand why, what's that?
The South Park episode where all the people from the alternate universe had like the Spock goatees.
Yeah.
And they were all mean except for the mirror universe Cartman, who is nice.
And that's the thing, is like it's such a famously Trekkian concept. This is one where I get why they go back to the well. And honestly, I don't think they've done it too often. You can it's still like a relatively small number of episodes in their overall 800 or so.
Yeah.
And I love the mirror universe. It was a couple of years ago we did Dave and I did a series of Mirror Universe podcasts, and we met our Mirror Universe counterparts, and we covered all the episodes of TOS and Enterprise and DS9. And we were talking about the comics too. We were reading like all the new Mirror Universe comics that IDW is putting out. And after that, I did kind of feel like a little Mirror Universe out. Like I wanted a break from it. But now like a couple years later, it's like, oh yeah, like I liked returning to this thing that I genuinely really enjoy.
Yeah. And I think I would have been on board. It's just that I'm not going to say I'm like I love the mystery of the burn, but that is where my investment is in this current season, and in seeing more really in seeing how Discovery interacts with it than like what the grand mystery is. So that was my main issue. But I do like the Mirror Universe.
I will say to some degree, I think perhaps even more unconsciously for me than consciously, since I think I'm strongly leaning towards this is all a dreamscape and not real time travel to a real alternate timeline.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if it makes sense because it's just it's a dreamscape. So I don't have to keep questioning. I can let all of that go because in dreams,
it's a holodeck simulator.
Yeah, I kind of hope that's the case, but we'll find out. And I think it was a smart choice to never cut away from this. They never cut back to the ship. So not only does it make us, get drawn more into like watching Georgia, like, oh, like she is the main character of the story. That's weird. But it also keeps the mystery of like, well, what exactly is going on? Is it real? Is it not? Like, I don't know. Maybe it is real. So, does anyone have any other comments on Giorgio's story, though? Because there is some stuff that happened on the ship that we haven't covered, so we can jump over to that. Unless you have more comment on like this Mirror Universe story.
I had one more thing. I just wanted to pull together that Star Trek has several times said it's nurture, not nature. That's the important thing, but never as emphatically as this episode has, which basically just says there is nothing so corrupt that it cannot be redeemed with the proper nurturing. And nice. I've never seen them plant their flag quite so solidly as they have here, where Giorgio, who eats people and kills entire planets, has now at the point where she's no longer comfortable in this world.
I said back in season 2, I was like, how I don't want her forgiven. If she is forgiven, I want it to be like a Darth Vader redemption. Like she has to die in the process. I don't want her to like live on. But like now I'm like no, like I do want her to reform.
Yeah.
Also, I think that she is going to at least allegorically or symbolically perhaps die in this. So that may well happen in its way. She is certainly dying, so that is hanging over her. Mortality, sometimes that's when I don't know what the term would be. That's when you try and get right with God.
Yeah, well, it is a definitely a solid Campbellian narrative motif to have the flawed character has to die symbolically and perhaps literally to be reborn as the new, more perfected hero.
I just want to point out also. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, you go ahead, and then I'll wrap it up.
I was just gonna say I want to point out also that it's possible that Giorgio entering in this scenario has created another temporal incursion, and so this is like the Kelvin of the Mirror Universe, and so anything can happen.
I don't want them to overcomplicate it with that. So
they don't have to say it. I'm just saying, like, I'm like saying what I'm saying is, what's that? Go ahead.
Well, it's possible, but I want this story to resolve a little bit more cleaner than
Starfleet Boy. Are you telling me though that I could hope for an appearance by Keenser? Because I'm on board the theory if it'll support it.
Oh yeah, awesome. I would love a Keenser cameo, even if it was Prime Keenser and not Erika Kelvin.
I don't know. I kind of want to see his little murderous. Maybe he's just like this foul-mouthed, always.
He could show up in Strange New Worlds. There could be Prime Keenser in Strange New Worlds.
It's fun to think about the Mirror Universe version of certain characters. Like,
and I think that's usually the spirit. This episode actually does, Brian. You were talking about the interesting depth that they achieve with Giorgio by doing it. And I guess there's an example where you can take this rather kind of like pulp concept and you can do some serious things with it. There are those stories in there. DS9 had some other good ones to tell. And I think the original one actually had an interesting story to tell that was like a broad sort of take on, warmongering and fascism as an ethos.
Yeah.
And how
it is so hokey and unrealistic that if you are going to use it, you damn sure better have like a good story, or at least like
I think so.
fun
Or at least
story.
a fun one.
Yeah, I think either of those will suffice if you can somehow combine that, which is sort of what that first Mirror Universe episode did. All the better.
But yeah, the thing I want to add is that the possible setup for Giorgio's Section 31 show here is that, you know, after meeting the Discovery crew of the Prime Universe, spending time with them, going back and seeing how messed up the Mirror Universe is, I can see her, you know, doing some self-reflection, again with the mirror motif, and saying, you know, that is a messed up world. I am a messed up person who is a part of that. I don't want to be like that. So my contribution to the universe now can be making this Prime Universe as good as possible. And because she thinks of herself like
she'd still be doing it her way, presumably.
Right. And she's like, well, I'm still going to be like a murderous bitch about it because that's just who I am. But I'm doing it to like make the rest of the universe better than that, which is a very, very, very Section 31 way of looking at it. So I definitely can see the setup now. I am on board for that show. I want to see what Bowie Kim and Erika Lippoldt do with that. And with all that being said, let's cross over through the Ion Storm onto the transporter pad back into the Prime Universe. So I did want to mention three scenes on the Kelvin. I'm sorry, on the Discovery. I'm losing my mind right now. I might have forgotten to pull.
Oh, we might.
I guess I did pull screenshots for it.
Oh,
So apologies about that. But we'll just talk about it. The three things I wanted to mention was Book, his little walk and talk with Saru down the corridor, where he says, you know, thank you so much for helping out on Quajon. I want to stay on the Discovery and help your crew. I have this information through the courier network about the Emerald Chain doing some big military training, but hey, that coincides with your intel. So, you know, I obviously know what's up and I can be helpful to you. And we also have Adira and Stamets and engineering working on that algorithm, and a little bit of like parent-child bonding, and Adira kind of like beating herself up over a mistake, and Stamets kind of like nurturing her through that, nurturing her with, you know, stuff with her boyfriend. Why is Gray not talking to her? And Brian, I think it might have been like the theory that you put forth last week, and then they are able to render the broadcast from the Verubin Nebula. They show it to Captain Saru, and it is a Kelpian from right before the burn. Kelpian Dr. Isa of the KSF Ka'ith, stranded for months in the Verubian Nebula while investigating a dilithium nursery. And they're waiting on they were waiting on a Starfleet ship to come rescue them, but it looks like she was suffering from radiation poisoning. They don't have the end of the message. They're still trying to clean that up, but yeah, there was a Kelpian ship, you know, doing something with a dilithium nursery in this nebula, and that's a little bit more information on the burn mystery. But yeah, what do y'all think about these three scenes? The book stuff, the Adira Stamets stuff, and then the Kelpian distress call that they got.
Well, the Book stuff again reinforces our theme of nurture, that Book has come around and he's now gun-ho for Starfleet, you know, and is going to go read the mag.
Like, sit down. He's like, we don't need you right now.
No, he says you'll get a chance to prove yourself. Just
well,
like
I was a little bit weirded out by them. Why not find a task for him? Why did he sort of say, wait for your moment to shine? That's such a kind of weird Zen thing, instead of saying, oh, I'm sure we can find something for you. It was a little, the conversation seemed a little odd to me.
Yeah, I think
it as a test
there to tease the audience, because they are going to do something with Book before the end of the season. So that was just to
I
let
also
us know
took it as a little test too. Like sometimes like if you give someone a little discouragement, and then if they still are persistent, then they're like their heart's in it.
I didn't see Saru as being particularly discouraging. He just said to me, it was, yeah, okay, yeah, but here you have to read the book. We gotta be on the same page if we're working together. And
I guess that's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah,
I did think that when I did my discussion on Starfleet Point, I actually forgot that scene completely because everything else in the episode kind of shadowed it, and I kind of regretted not thinking about that until now. But yeah, it was a good scene, but I do regret that I didn't pay as much attention to it.
I like that Saru acknowledged the walk and talk nature of it when Book is like, "Oh, can I have a word with you, Captain?" And he's like, "Yeah, if you don't mind, like walking and talking at the same time. Come on, let's go."
Hand movements. I thought it is kind of funny if Saru was sort of trying to say, you need to remember we do things by the book here, ironically to him, but because he had a former first officer who disobeyed him constantly. He promoted an ensign to first officer. George Al gave him crap all the time and went off on secret missions and stuff too. The Discovery is like the least protocol-driven starship we've ever seen.
Oh, no, you're forgetting the Kelvin universe.
If you've ever watched any other Star Trek show, they breaking the rules is a big part of the. It's a big part of Star
Trek. Is trying to start. Oh well, if we're gonna bring this guy into the loop, I'm gonna start him out on the right foot. Read the manual because I've screwed. So many other people are driving me nuts. I'm gonna try to get this one right. If I integrate him into the system properly.
Of the scenes you mentioned, Fathery, the one that interested me maybe most was Stamets and Adira, just because I like watching those characters interact. One of the things I like is Stamets, who usually has kind of a annoyed look, or like in previous seasons, kind of somewhere between annoyance and I don't know, annoyance. He kind of has this constant look as he's like trying to like get inside. It's like he's experimenting with empathy when it comes to Adira, and I like watching his facial expressions as he reaches out to them. I said her, and I'm fixing up my pronouns now. I by the way, I agree with Adira that if Gray is sort of trying to help them find new contacts on the Discovery, that it is not for Gray to shun Adira in order to prompt that. I think that is not a very healthy relationship move.
But I like that they point that out. They point out that that is kind of messed up if that is what Gray is doing.
I will say non-communicative.
Yeah, Adira says it's not Gray's decision, but isn't the whole point of the Trill with a bonded symbiote, a Trill with a symbiote, is that there's supposed to be an integrated decision-making, gestalt, and not just the person who happens to have been born with the body gets to call all the shots. So I mean, personally, I was like, yeah, Gray doesn't get to make all the decisions, but Gray should certainly have a voice in making these decisions.
Right, but I think that the key point would be that there wasn't actual communications per se. Gray just sort of unilaterally did that thing.
Yeah, I will grant you.
I think there is more to it, though. I think we don't quite know all the things.
Yeah, that is actually one of the little hooks that I am interested in. A lot of times I'm uninterested with these mysteries. They string along too long, but that's one that I'm curious to see play out because I actually have like a little bit of like emotional investment in it.
I did love the interaction. I'm not complaining. I'm just sort of in the grander scheme of things. It was Adira 100% right when they said that.
I think the human factor has to come into play too, because this is a new kind of joining that we haven't seen before. I mean, so maybe there's something going on.
Old Trill rules don't apply to this, so they can do whatever they want. It's already so unorthodox. With the message that they get of the Kelpian, I thought it was weird that it was like the same actress who played Saru's sister.
Oh,
I was like. And the voice sounds really similar, but you
actually
you
didn't
can't
notice
really
until someone I think it was PJ who pointed it out to me.
Yeah, I don't like the Kelpian makeup whenever they have multiple Kelpians on screen because they all look too similar. There's so little individuality, and I wish that they would like show a little bit more of the human actors' faces so that there would be more distinct looks to each Kelpian.
Are you
But,
saying that all Kelpian look the same to you, Father?
They do all look the same. Like, go back and watch The Sound of Thunder.
Especially when they hire the same actors.
Yeah.
That's true.
But surprisingly, like the only the one played by Doug Jones is the one that has like the distinct Saru walk. So that's not a Kelpian thing. He's just a weirdo. No wonder he left his homeworld.
I think it's just that his particular degree of physical acting is not easily emulated.
Yes.
He has really put some
That's
work.
absolutely what it was, but I assume like our audience is smart, so I didn't need to spell it out for him.
All right.
But yeah, so that was kind of weird, but yeah, it was cool to see like Saru see like other Kelpians, and it's like kind of sad because they're like, oh look, like her forehead has like those radiation burns, and like no, these people probably all died 120 years ago.
It's been some highs and lows for him. He found out the Kelpians joined the Federation, and then he found out they got cooked by radiation.
Yeah.
Well, not all the Kelpians, just these Kelpians, right?
Yeah, I was just being blithe.
But yeah, does anyone have anything else to add to that stuff before we go into the Born egg?
At first I thought, oh, they're just picking up this ancient signal from far away, probably using Starfleet's a massive equivalent of massive dish thing that they didn't collapse or something to collect it. But then it's like, oh, no, we're in real-time communications now. We can even hack into their system. And I was like, well, if you can do that, have you tried just hailing them? Hey, hello, this is Starfleet. Is everything okay over there? And maybe the EMH or whatever will answer and say, nope, they're all dead, Dave. But, and I guess we just assume they've tried hailing and nobody's answered. But
the general Discovery style, both with this and with, I would say, with asking the Sphere about what they were going to on that planet, is they don't talk about those things. And it is, I am not a huge techno-babble guy, but I think I do want to see my Treks that show them being a little bit more, I guess, kind of in that engineering sort of methodical, inquisitive sense, just a touch more procedural about it.
Yeah, a single line like we tried hailing them and got no response. That's all I needed.
Yeah,
I do wonder.
I mean, like, I think that's a safe assumption that no one's picking up the phone if you're already using the prefix.
But this is the source of the burn, apparently, right? This Kelpian, the source of the burn is within
they're
this.
Close to it. They're in the same nebula.
So that's what I'm like. So I'm just completely baffled by the burn and where they're going with it, because like it is not. I don't know I don't know like if the burn is what's gonna happen when they find out what caused the burn. Like
we'll find out when we see the episode.
You're like, yeah. No, but it's just, I guess I'm becoming less interested in the burn for some reason, and I share PJ Boatwreck's sentiment on it. It seems
it
like
is the least interesting thing in the show right now.
In the show right now, yeah.
Well, it probably, I mean, they may have inadvertently, I don't want to say shot themselves in the foot, but something like that by jumping to the mirror universe as if to show, not that it doesn't matter, but it kind of suggests they didn't have anything, they had more interesting things to do than that. What I think they are doing is setting up Section 31, that they want to resolve Georgiou's story. But yeah, I can't help but make it seem even less pressing. I mean, it was always just Michael's thing that she felt that the Federation needed it. I don't know if I've been sold on that idea yet. She seems real into it though.
Yeah, if I was convinced that like solving the burn mystery is important, then I would I would be a little bit more invested. Like if maybe there is concern for like something like that was going to happen again, and they needed to figure out why it happened last time in order to stop it, or like something along those lines. Like we've been told that the Federation needs it answered, but we're not really.
Well, even Vance,
really at this point, it's still Michael needs an answer. Right. Everyone else has kind of moved on, and I kind of like that.
She needs an answer because she says the Federation needs an answer.
Well,
right. And Vance is even like, "We'll see."
The Federation doesn't agree with her, and I kind of like that friction there. That Michael is forcing this issue that she cares about and trying to convince everyone it's important, and everyone else is kind of like, "Oh, Emerald Chain, dude," and
I think the show just the nature of it.
There's only what 4 episodes left. Yeah. So next week we'll wrap up the Giorgio stuff. Then the episode after that we'll learn all about the burn. Then the episode after that we'll set up the final episode, and then we'll have the final episode of the season.
When they fight Control.
Yeah, so in 2 weeks, I think we'll know a lot about the burn, but we'll see. We'll see if I'm right or wrong.
And I do have a strong feeling that this story will continue into the next season. I don't think we're gonna get all the answers this season.
I think the burn will be resolved this season, but
okay,
we'll find out.
I hope so.
So I'll just go ahead and move into the Gorn eggs now. These are all the Easter eggs, in jokes, and continuity connections that I found within the episode. If I miss any, y'all be sure to let me know. But we'll just start at the very beginning, the opening scene. Very interesting when we see the character Commander Yor, the temporal operative. He is wearing the TNG season 1 and 2 uniform, and they do mention, yes, the timeline created by the Romulan mining ship. So reference to Star Trek 09. First time we ever really talk about that timeline divergence in the Prime universe. I had never noticed this before, but in the Discovery mess hall, there is what seems to be like little portraits of 23rd century ships that we saw like Discovery season 1 and 2 on the wall in the mess hall. So I don't know what that's about, but there's 3 different designs. I saw the Walker class like the Shinzo, the McGee class like the Shran, and the Nimitz class like the Europa. When Giorgio and Burnham beam down to Danis 5 and they're walking around out in that snowy landscape, this is a major mirroring of their first scene together back in the very first episode. They match a few different shots, like the two of them walking around in the snow. It's framed to look like how they were walking around in the desert. There's scenes that were shot in the Kingdom of Jordan for the premiere episode of Discovery. So that ties into the mirror motif, and it also makes me think this is the last time that these characters will be together. This is the end of their story together because Giorgio is going off to the Section 31 TV show. When they are getting that, sorry.
Well, I'll take that to say what I wanted to say before that I didn't unmute my mic, which is that's awesome.
Yeah, I don't think I caught that, but as soon as you started talking, showing that landscape, Father, I was like, oh, I just realized what they did. Yeah.
Well, when they are getting the Kelpian distress broadcast in the ready room with crew, there is mention of the USS Hiragaganai. If I said it correctly, I'm not sure if I did. I actually didn't know who this was. I had to Google it, but he sounds like a really cool person. He's kind of like the Japanese Leonardo da Vinci. In the 1700s, he was like a doctor and an inventor and a writer and just like a all-around type of like Renaissance man. So it was a cool historical character that I learned about because I watched Star Trek. Stamets also
Discovery
mentioned...
does that a lot with their ships. They like highlight a person in history with the ship names, and I really like that.
I think all Star Trek shows, the original series was always like classical ship names, like World War II aircraft carriers in the United States. But like after that, I think they've all kind of done that to a degree.
I can only think of like TNG doing the Tsiolkovsky, but they were more like boat. Like what's that?
There's the Yuri Gagarin and TNG. There were a few. There were
all right, yeah.
Stamets mentions using the prefix code to hack into the Kelpian ship. The prefix code, of course, first established in Star Trek II, the Wrath of Khan, and was used in that initial standoff between the Enterprise and the Reliant.
Here it comes.
In the Mirror Universe, Captain Killy says that the Terran shipyard is at Epsilon ND4. That is a real star system that they've mentioned in Star Trek previously. It was first brought up in the episode And the Children Shall Lead, widely considered possibly the worst episode of all Star Trek. And Michael Burnham mentions the planet Epsilon ND4, where she cut off the hands of artists and blinded them to make their works of art more valuable, which is just totally evil and fucked up. But yeah, that happened at the planet Kepler 174D, or I'm sorry, 147D, which is an actual star system that was discovered in 2014. Amongst the Mirror Universe personnel, there's like this one Terran officer that looked really familiar, and I couldn't quite place it. And then I figured out that it was Arium without the robot face.
Right.
So they actually brought that actress, Hannah Chessman, back in to play Mirror Universe Arium.
Oh, thanks for telling me that. I've been calling her Cheeseman, and so it's Chessman.
Or it might be Cheeseman. I don't know how you actually say it. When Stamets is doing his little presentation for Emperor Giorgio, and it's like this total like Kim Jong-un, like divine leader sent from the heavens type stuff, he does refer to her as daughter of Rome. So they've teased before that there is kind of a connection between the Roman Empire and the Terran Empire. In Enterprise, the Mirror Universe Captain Archer made it sound like the Terran Empire had existed for centuries. And also like the title that Giorgio has, Emperor Philippa Giorgio Augustus Eoponius Centaurus. The Augustus is the title given to Roman emperors. So I just wanted.
Yeah, I don't necessarily want that. You know, the main thing we always want to see is our heroes in the Mirror Universe. But it would be kind of interesting to see, you know, what does Mirror Universe 20th century look like, or you know, is there a good Trump? Who knows?
Let's talk about the newspaper. Let's talk about the newspaper that Carl was reading, because it is packed full of born eggs. It's like busting at the seams. There's a lot of load in here. I actually took a visual if you're watching the video of this from this came from trekcore.com, where they pointed out some things. I did not have good enough resolution to zoom in and discover. But yeah, there's references to multiple Star Trek episodes. The Star Dispatch, the name of the newspaper, that actually was first seen on screen in City on the Edge of Forever, and that is the connection to the Guardian of Forever from that episode, widely considered the best, possibly the best episode in the entire franchise. But there's a picture in the paper of the 21st Street mission, and also like some text saying, "How can I help?"
And soup.
Or I'm sorry, let me help. Yeah, like the good soup at the 21st Street mission. There's a mention of Quatlus, which was the currency used by the gamesters of Triskelion. There is reference to the USS
Janolan.
I couldn't think of the name of the ship. Yeah, the USS Janolan, that was Scotty's ship from the TNG episode Relics. There is also mention of the Takan Empire devastated by a supernova. That's a reference to the last outpost in Next Generation. And there's also a story in there, Worf wins the Bat'leth tournament. That is a reference to an episode all about alternate timelines and parallel universes. Parallels. So that's it.
Do we assume that basically these were all in jokes and not don't have any real relevance to the plot?
It's kind of hard to say without knowing the true nature of Carl.
That Trek Core clip that you pulled up also points out that there's Vulcan script and Bajoran script in the newspaper.
There is some Bajoran and Vulcan lettering in the newspaper. So yeah, I don't know how much that is.
What does it all mean?
Or if there are actual intended clues, like the Guardian of Forever stuff. So
we need to create a Mariner board and put all these clues up on it and see if we can trace them to their source, like in Lower Decks.
Or we could wait less than a week and see.
No. I don't think that Starfleet can reform until we know the answer to this mystery.
Well, Dave, why don't you go crazy and break every rule that we have to go solve this mystery? We'll be okay. To do that, I'm gonna have to promote you from first officer.
Oh, that's all right.
I'll go find like some 23-year-old with no command experience. I think Tilly did a fine job as acting first officer. But there will be more to discuss next week. And there's also going to be more to discuss later tonight for anyone staying up late. We are going to have some fun times over at Starfleet Boy After Dark. So Starfleet Boy, do you want to tell us what to expect on that front?
We're going to talk about a lot about the Mandalorian because it was a bitchin' episode. So if you haven't seen it, no spoilers now. And the episode title, like we like to give it here, is Starfleet Boy After Dark, Chapter 15, The Belieber, as in Justin Bieber.
Oh, I'd like to call it Starfleet Boy After Dark and its 7 new spin-off shows.
Oh my gosh, that's even better. I might have to change it. Dang it, Father.
The Starfleet Boy investors. Like, this is for you.
Yeah, we're also going to talk a lot about all that news, all that jazz. So we look forward to it. And then we're going to try to play a new game at the end of the night. So we'll see how that works out.
Yeah, no more debates.
What was it? Soup and sandwiches might have been our last debate.
That's probably for the best. I don't have fun doing that, so that's.
You're really good at it. You're really good at the debates. You always win.
It's not a fun victory for me though. But
all right.
Yeah, so that's gonna be tons of fun. When are we getting started with that?
Let's see. We'll do our normal 11 o'clock start time, so that's in half an hour roughly.
Okay, so and 40 minutes,
Eastern.
wherever you are, 40 minutes from now, that will be streaming live at Starfleet Boy on YouTube. And I'll come back next week at 7:30 Central, Friday night, because we have follow-up on Terra Firma Part 1 with Terra Firma Part 2. And you don't want to miss that. So we'll sign off for now, but everyone have like a good week until then. And as always, live long and prosper, y'all.
Listen to the Tex-Trek podcast through Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or at tex-trek.com. Like us on Facebook at facebook.com/tex-trek and follow Fathery on Twitter at TXTrek. Please support us by liking our videos and subscribing to our channel on YouTube. Thank you and take